This story is titled, Locked in the Bathroom Battling Anxiety, I Overheard My Wife Tell Our Child. Insurance money if he's gone, freedom from debt if he stays. We can't lose. They chuckled together. I submerged myself for half a minute, rehearsing silence. Now his message begs, Return home! Mother won't eat, just gazes blankly. Hey Reddit, I'm typing this at 4 o'clock in the morning with hands that won't stop shaking. There's a strange clarity that comes when your entire life implodes. A brutal kind of awareness that cuts through everything you thought you knew. I'm not even sure if I'm looking for advice or just need to get this out of my system. Using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm 45 years old and had back surgery 2 weeks ago. Nothing fancy or extraordinary about it. Just the inevitable result of 19 years working construction. One wrong lift finally did me in. 3 damaged discs and some nerve damage later, I have enough metal in my spine now that I joke about setting off airport security. The doctor says I'll recover, but it's going to be a long road ahead. You know that feeling when your pain medication isn't quite working, but you're not due for another dose for at least 2 more hours? That's exactly where I found myself yesterday afternoon. I decided to soak in the bathtub since hot water sometimes helps ease the discomfort. Our bathroom has this weird layout. The tub sits against one wall, and on the other side is our bedroom. The walls between them are incredibly thin. We're talking hear a whisper thin. I was just lying there with my eyes closed, trying not to focus on the burning sensation running down my left leg. Sciatica's a real bitch. When I heard my wife Jessica, 44, and our son Tyler, 16, talking in the bedroom. Normally, I would have just tuned them out to focus on managing my pain. But something in Jessica's tone made me listen more carefully. She was discussing our finances, medical bills, insurance coverage, all the normal concerns when your household income gets cut in half because you can't work. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. She told Tyler that they needed to be prepared for either outcome. That if I died, they'd get the life insurance payout, $375,000. And if I lived, we'd be $55,000 in debt, even after insurance. And then I swear this is exactly what she said. If he dies, we get the insurance. If he lives, we get debt. Either way, we win. They laughed. My son laughed. I stayed underwater for 40 seconds after hearing that, just to practice what silence felt like. Just to see if drowning might be preferable to knowing my family sees me as nothing but a potential payday. The water muffled everything except the pounding of my own heartbeat in my ears. And for those moments, I seriously considered whether slipping away might be easier than facing what I just discovered. The worst part? Looking back, the signs were always there. I just refused to see them. 4 months ago, Jessica randomly asked about increasing my life insurance. She claimed her friend at work mentioned everyone should have at least 5x their annual salary and coverage. I agreed because it made perfect sense at the time. It was responsible financial planning for a family with a primary breadwinner in a physically demanding occupation. Now I see it for what it was. Tyler has been weirdly detached about my surgery from the beginning. When I came home from the hospital, he asked if I needed anything, then immediately went to his room to play video games without even waiting for an answer. I chalked it up to teenage awkwardness around illness, but now the pattern is clear. Then there were the bills accidentally left on my nightstand. Medical paperwork with the worst-case scenarios carefully highlighted. Jessica mentioning her cousin, who died after routine surgery at least 4 separate times before my procedure. The hushed conversations that stop abruptly when I enter a room. The fake smiles. The way they exchange looks when they think I'm not watching. But you want to know the real kicker? After hearing all of that, after learning my family sees me as either a financial burden or a profitable corpse, I got out of that bathtub, dried myself off, and dressed. It took nearly 20 minutes with the pain shooting through my back and down my leg with every movement. Then I went downstairs like nothing had happened. I ate dinner with them. I smiled at their jokes. I thanked Jessica when she handed me my evening medications. I told Tyler I was proud of his math test score. Just normal family stuff. Because what else could I do? Confront them? Start screaming? Demand to know when exactly they started seeing me as a walking corpse with a price tag? After dinner, I sat in the recliner, the only piece of furniture in our house that doesn't make my back scream in agony, and watched some mindless show with them. Jessica asked if I was okay because I was quieter than usual. I told her the pain was bad. She nodded sympathetically and suggested I go to bed early. Such concern, much care. Wow. It's so strange how trauma works. You'd think hearing your family basically hope for your death would break you completely. But instead, I feel this strange, icy clarity, like someone turned down the volume on my emotions and cranked up my brain's processing power. Here's what I know. I can't let them know what I heard. Not yet. I need to protect myself financially, legally, emotionally. I've been with Jessica for 19 years. 19 years. I changed careers for her, moved across states 3 times, supported her through nursing school, and apparently, my only real value to her is my death benefit. And my son, who I taught to ride a bike, who I coached in Little League, who I've loved every single day of his life, would rather have a check than a father. So here I am, lying in our guest bedroom. I told Jessica I needed space to spread out because of my back pain. The truth is I can't bear to sleep next to her anymore. I've got my old tablet propped up on my knees, typing this out while they sleep peacefully down the hall, probably dreaming of all the ways they'll spend my death money that isn't coming. I keep replaying that moment underwater. The muffled sensation, the burning in my lungs, the way everything went quiet except for the blood pumping in my ears. It would have been so easy to just stay under. Give them what they want. But that's not who I am. And that's not what's going to happen. Instead, I'm making plans. I've got time. At least 8 weeks of recovery before I can even think about going back to work. 8 weeks to figure out exactly how to dismantle the life we've built together without them realizing what's happening. 8 weeks to secure my future. One that doesn't include a wife who sees me as a payday and a son who laughs at the idea of my death. You know how people say revenge is a dish best served cold? Well, I'm putting mine in the freezer. I've never been the type to post my personal stuff online, but I needed to get this out somewhere. I can't sleep, can't eat, can't process how 19 years of marriage led to this moment, how my own flesh and blood could sit there and laugh at the idea of collecting on my life insurance. Tomorrow I start making calls, talking to people who can help me navigate this, setting things in motion. Tonight I mourn, not just for the marriage I thought I had or the son I believed loved me. I mourn for the man I was yesterday morning. The trusting husband, the proud father, because that man died in a bathtub while practicing what silence feels like. Update. First, thanks to everyone who responded to my original post. The support from internet strangers has been more genuine than anything I've felt from my family lately. Kind of fucked up, right? It's been 3 weeks since I heard Jessica and Tyler laughing about my potential death in that bathtub. 3 weeks of smiling through dinner, accepting help with my medications, and pretending I didn't know they were waiting for me to either die or become a financial burden. But I haven't been idle. You know that feeling when you're playing chess and your opponent doesn't realize you've been setting up your moves 5 turns ahead? That's my life now. Outwardly, I'm just a broken man recovering from back surgery. Inwardly, I'm dismantling 19 years of marriage with surgical precision. Day 1, after the bathtub incident, I called an old buddy from high school who works in finance. I met him at a coffee shop while Jessica thought I was at physical therapy. I started by asking him hypothetical questions about a friend going through marital troubles. He saw through that in about 2 seconds flat and gave me the real talk I needed. Here's what I've done so far. I opened a new bank account at a completely different bank. My disability checks and savings are now being redirected there. Jessica has no idea. She still thinks everything's flowing into our joint account like always. I've changed all my passwords, email, social media, banking, everything. Jessica used to know them all. She had full access to my entire digital life. Not anymore. I called my life insurance company. Turns out Jessica had indeed increased my coverage significantly 4 months ago with an electronic signature I have zero recollection of providing. Can't prove she forged it, but come on. The timing lines up perfectly with everything else. I reduced the coverage back to the original amount and changed the beneficiary to my sister. Let's see how they feel about that if they ever find out. I've started documenting everything. I'm recording conversations on my phone. I checked the laws. This is a one-party consent state, so it's completely legal. I'm taking photos of bills. I'm keeping a detailed journal of every interaction. Every fake smile, every feigned concern, every calculated show of support. I've slowly secured all my important documents. Birth certificate, car title, thankfully in my name only, property records for the house we bought together, tax returns. They're now in a safety deposit box Jessica knows nothing about. The physical recovery has been brutal, but it's given me the perfect cover. When you're in legitimate pain, no one questions why you're quiet or withdrawn. No one thinks it's weird that you spend hours on your phone watching YouTube when you're actually transferring funds and researching divorce attorneys. The most surreal part of all this? Watching Jessica play the devoted wife. She brings me tea, adjusts my pillows, asks if I need anything before she leaves for work. Sometimes her hand lingers on my shoulder, and I wonder if she's checking to see if I'm still breathing. Or if she's calculating how much more insurance money she'd get if I was just a little more dead. Last week, Tyler came into the guest room where I've been sleeping. He sat on the edge of the bed with that awkward teenage energy and said he wanted to talk about something important. For a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was going to confess. Tell me he was sorry for what he said, that he didn't mean it. Nope. He wanted to talk about buying a car, the one his friend's older brother is selling for $4,000. A real deal, apparently. I just stared at him. This kid who laughed at the idea of cashing in on my death was now asking me for car money. The absolute balls on this child I raised. I told him we have medical bills. That money's tight right now. That maybe when I'm back at work, we can revisit the idea. He had the audacity to look disappointed, to sigh like I was ruining his life, to say that all his friends have cars and he's the only one still getting dropped off at school like a little kid. You know what's worse than hearing someone wish you were dead? Watching them continue to treat you like an ATM after they've wished you were dead. Jessica's getting frustrated. I can see it in the tight lines around her mouth. The way she sighs when she thinks I'm not listening. The hushed phone calls to her mother where she complains about the medical bills. About how I'm not recovering as quickly as the doctor said I would. About how difficult everything is. Poor Jessica. All this caregiving and not even a dead husband to show for it. The other day, I accidentally left a medical bill on the kitchen counter. The big one. $47,000. Most of which insurance will eventually cover, but the initial billing doesn't show that. I watched through the doorway as she found it. The way her shoulders slumped. The way she quickly pulled out her phone to check our joint account balance. Here's the thing about financial abuse. It works both ways. For years, I've been the primary earner, the provider, the one who made sure bills were paid and savings were growing. I handled most of the finances because Jessica claimed she wasn't good with numbers. But now I realize she was perfectly happy to let me handle everything as long as the money kept flowing. The money has stopped flowing, and Jessica's mask is slipping. Yesterday, I overheard her talking to Tyler about postponing a family vacation. They'd apparently been planning for June when I'd be well into recovery, but not quite back to normal. A vacation they never mentioned to me. Were they planning to go without me? Or were they hoping I'd be gone by then, one way or another? I found other things too. Searches on Jessica's tablet about life insurance payout timeline and how long after death is life insurance paid. She didn't even bother clearing her history. Why would she? I've never had reason to look before. I got a job offer yesterday. Out of state. Started applying weeks ago when I realized I needed an exit strategy with income attached. It's actually perfect timing. The position doesn't start for 2 months, which lines up with my recovery timeline. The pay is slightly less than I make now, but the cost of living there is lower. And it's 2,200 miles away from Jessica and Tyler. I haven't said yes yet, but I will tomorrow after I talk to my lawyer one more time. Oh yeah, I have a lawyer now. Met with 3 before I found one who didn't make me feel like just another billing opportunity. She's helped me understand what divorce will look like, what I'm entitled to, what Jessica might try to claim. She thinks the bathtub conversation might not hold up in court as proof of anything, but the financial moves Jessica has made, especially that life insurance change, raise serious red flags. I've been telling people I'm struggling with depression and the pain. It's the perfect cover for withdrawing from social events, for the weight I've lost, for the hollow look in my eyes that has nothing to do with physical discomfort and everything to do with realizing my family sees me as nothing but a financial calculation. But here's something unexpected. I've actually been reconnecting with people. My cousin who Jessica never liked. She thought he was too crude. My college roommate, she claimed, was a bad influence. My sister, who she always competed with. Turns out they've all missed me. They've all wondered why I became so distant after marriage. I'm building a support system she knows nothing about. People who will have my back when everything falls apart. And it will fall apart soon. This morning, Tyler asked if I could help him with a project for school. Something about career day and wanting to understand more about what I do. In 19 years, he's never once shown interest in my work. Never asked questions about construction or building or any of it. I almost laughed in his face. 3 weeks ago, he was chuckling at the idea of cashing in my life insurance. Now he wants to know about my career? But I played along. I showed him photos from job sites, explained the process of taking something from blueprint to reality, watched his eyes glaze over with boredom while he pretended to care. What he really wanted came out eventually. His school's father-son camping trip is coming up. 2 nights in the state park, fishing, hiking, bonfire stories, the whole American Dad fantasy package. He wanted to know if I'd be recovered enough to go. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a crack in my resolve. A flicker of the love I used to feel for this boy who has my eyes and his mother's smile. Maybe he did care in his own self-centered teenage way. Then I remembered the laughter, the cold calculation in his voice when he agreed with Jessica that either way, my death or my debt, they'd win. I told him I didn't think my back would be up for sleeping on the ground, that he should see if his uncle could take him instead. The disappointment on his face looked almost genuine. Almost. Last night I packed a go bag while they were at Tyler's basketball game. Just the essentials, some clothes, important documents I hadn't already secured, medications, the external hard drive with all my evidence. It's hidden in the trunk of my car now, under the spare tire. I'm not running yet, but I'll be ready when the time comes. Today I'm calling the real estate agent I've been talking to. Our house has gone up in value since we bought it. Housing market's crazy right now. She thinks we could get at least $75,000 in equity if we sell. Split down the middle, that's a decent starter fund for my new life. Jessica has no idea what's coming. She thinks I'm broken, defeated, struggling just to get through each day of recovery. She has no idea that while I've been lying in this bed, I've been systematically untangling our lives. That every time she hands me a pill or adjusts my pillows, I'm one step closer to disappearing from her life. So completely that she'll realize death would have been easier. At least then she'd have closure and insurance money. Instead, she's going to get the slow, painful reality of being abandoned, of watching her financial security disintegrate, of explaining to her friends and family why her husband of 19 years suddenly filed for divorce and moved across the country. Final update. It's been 2 months since my last update. 2 months since I nuked my marriage from orbit. 2 months of rebuilding my life from the smoking crater that used to be my family. And now Tyler's voicemail has me questioning absolutely nothing. Before I get into the voicemail, let me back up to where I left off. I promised you guys an update after the dinner. The infamous Last Supper where I was finally going to confront Jessica and Tyler with what I knew. Well, it happened. And it went exactly as planned. Until it didn't. I ordered her favorite Thai food. Set the table with actual matching plates instead of the paper ones we'd been using during my recovery. Even put out candles like it was some kind of celebration. In a way it was, my personal Independence Day. Jessica was suspicious immediately. Asked if it was our anniversary and she'd forgotten. It wasn't. She had forgotten our actual anniversary 3 weeks earlier. But that's beside the point. Tyler just slid into his chair and started shoveling pad thai into his face while scrolling TikTok. Completely oblivious to the tension. I waited until they were both settled. Until Jessica had taken her first sip of wine. Until Tyler had put his phone down to reach for an egg roll. Then I said it. I've accepted a job in Nevada. I start in 2 weeks. I'm going alone. The silence that followed was magnificent. Like that moment after you drop something fragile and before it hits the ground. That suspended animation of knowing something is about to shatter. But it hasn't quite happened yet. Jessica recovered first. Asked what I was talking about. If this was some kind of joke. If the pain meds were making me confused. I just smiled and took another bite of my food. Told her I wasn't confused at all. That I'd been planning this move for weeks. That the house was going on the market next Tuesday. That I'd already packed most of my important stuff. Tyler finally looked up from his phone. Actually put it down completely. Asked if we were all moving or just me. Just me, I told him. That's when Jessica started crying. Not the pretty TV drama tears that slide gracefully down cheeks. The ugly, snotty mascara everywhere kind that happen when your entire world implodes over pad thai on a Thursday night. She asked why. Said we could work through whatever was bothering me. Said she'd been by my side through the surgery, through recovery, through everything. And that's when I told them. Every single word I'd heard in that bathtub. Their laughter, their calculations, their cold analysis of my value, dead or alive. You know how people say they've watched the blood drain from someone's face? I always thought that was just a saying. But Jessica went so pale so fast I thought she might pass out. And Tyler? Tyler just froze with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. A noodle dangling pathetically. Jessica tried to deny it. Said I misheard. Said it was a joke. Said I was taking things out of context. So I pulled out my phone and played the audio I'd been collecting for weeks. Not from the bathtub. I didn't have that. From after, a conversation where she told her sister how worried she was about money if my recovery took longer than expected. How the insurance would have been so much simpler. How she sometimes wondered if she'd made the wrong choice staying with me all these years. Then I showed them screenshots. The bank accounts I'd separated. The life insurance policy with my sister as the new beneficiary. The lease I'd signed on an apartment in Nevada. The one-way U-Haul rental confirmation. Tyler started crying. Actually crying. Said he didn't mean it. Said he was just agreeing with his mom. Said he didn't want me to die. Too little, too late, kid. Jessica switched tactics. Went from denial to rage in about 3 seconds flat. Started screaming about how I couldn't do this. How I was destroying our family. How I'd regret this. How she'd make me pay. I just laughed. Actually laughed. Told her she'd already made me pay for 19 years and I was done. I moved out the next day. Didn't even stay for the fallout. I had a buddy come over to help load my stuff while Jessica was at work and Tyler was at school. Left my keys and wedding ring on the kitchen counter. Drove to a hotel 30 miles away and stayed there until my apartment in Nevada was ready. The divorce papers were delivered to her at work a week later. That was particularly satisfying to imagine. She tried to fight it, of course. Tried to claim I was abandoning her and Tyler. Tried to go after my 401k, my savings, everything. But my lawyer was prepared. The evidence of her searching for info about my life insurance payout was particularly damning in the eyes of the court. I won't bore you with the legal details, but the TLDR version is she got way less than she expected. The house had to be sold to settle our debts. My 401k stayed mine. Joint savings got split 50-50ths, but there wasn't much left there anyway after I'd moved most of my personal savings to my new account. Tyler was the real casualty in all this. Not financially. I set up a separate account for his college fund that Jessica can't touch. But emotionally. He sent me dozens of texts. Some angry, some pleading, some just sad. I didn't respond to any of them. Until the voicemail. I've been in Nevada for almost 2 months now. My back is finally healing properly. The new job is good, less physical strain, decent pay, normal coworkers who don't secretly wish I was dead for financial gain. I've got a small apartment with a view of the mountains. I'm not happy exactly, but I'm free. And that counts for something. Then yesterday, while I was grocery shopping, my phone buzzed. Tyler's name on the screen. I almost declined it out of habit, but something made me let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later, I listened to it in the frozen food aisle. Standing in front of the ice cream section with a pint of Rocky Road melting in my hand. Please come home. Mom won't eat. She just stares at the wall. 8 words. His voice cracked on please. He sounded younger than 16. Sounded like the little boy who used to beg me to check under his bed for monsters. For a split second, I felt it. That pull, that instinct to protect that I'd spent 19 years cultivating. To drop everything and rush back to fix what was broken. But then I remembered the laughter. When I got home from the store, I sat on my balcony and called my sister. Told her about the voicemail. Asked her what she'd heard from mutual friends back home. Turns out Jessica's breakdown isn't exactly a surprise. The house sold for less than we hoped. She had to downsize to a 2-bedroom apartment. Had to get a second job to cover expenses. Had to face everyone who'd known us as the perfect couple and explain why her husband of 19 years suddenly left and moved across the country. She's telling people I had a mental breakdown after my surgery, that the pain meds affected my brain, that I became paranoid and delusional. Some believe her, some don't. My sister certainly doesn't. After we hung up, I sat there watching the sunset over mountains I'm still getting used to. I thought about Tyler's voice, about Jessica staring at the wall, about the mess I'd left behind, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no guilt, just nothing. Is that normal? To work so hard for revenge and then feel empty when you get it? Maybe it's because revenge wasn't actually my goal. Survival was, self-preservation, escape. I called Tyler back this morning. Not right away. I waited until I knew he'd be at school. Left a voicemail of my own. I told him I wasn't coming back. That his mother would either pull herself together or she wouldn't. But that wasn't my responsibility anymore. That actions have consequences. That he was old enough to understand that wishing death on someone, even jokingly, isn't something you come back from. But I also told him that when he turns 18, if he wants to visit me in Nevada, my door is open. that I'd help him with college if he decided to go, that I hadn't stopped loving him even if I couldn't forgive him yet. Is that weak? Maybe. But he's still my son, even if he's also the kid who laughed at the idea of cashing in on my death. So here we are, my final update. Because after this, there's nothing left to tell. Just a man in his 40s starting over in a new state. Just a broken family back home. Just the ordinary aftermath of discovering your loved ones valued you more as a corpse than as a husband and father. Jessica will eventually pull herself together. She's always been resilient. More resilient than me in many ways. She'll find someone new. Tell them I was the villain. Maybe she'll even believe it herself eventually. Tyler will grow up. Maybe he'll come find me one day. Maybe he won't. Either way, he'll have learned something about consequences that most people don't learn until much later in life. And me? I'm focusing on my back exercises. On making my apartment feel like home. On figuring out who Daniel is when he's not defined by being Jessica's husband or Tyler's father. I joined a local hiking group on Meetup. Went out for beers with some coworkers last weekend. Downloaded a dating app but haven't opened it yet. Baby steps. Sometimes at night, I still think about that moment in the bathtub. The water closing over my face. The muffled sounds. The burning in my lungs as I counted to 40. But I'm not practicing for silence anymore. I'm practicing for a new kind of noise. My noise. My life. If you've read this far, thank you. Writing this all out has been therapeutic in ways I didn't expect. Who would have thought that strangers on the internet would provide more genuine concern than the people I spent nearly 2 decades with? I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in months, I'm actually looking forward to finding out. For those of you going through something similar, and from the comments, I know there are many, remember this. Rock bottom has a foundation. Once you hit it, you can rebuild. It might not look like what you had before, but sometimes that's for the best. I may check in again someday with another update, or I may not. Either way, I'm going to be okay. And if you're in the depths of your own personal hell right now, know that you will be too.